This is Dulia De Silva for Gold FM, bringing you your news in detail.
The news headlines on Gold FM.
In your news headlines, alleged criminal Pudilasi back in the island. Gramiladaris out of Ditwa relief activities. Copen Central Bank at loggerheads. And in news overseas, Pakistan declares open war against Afghanistan Taliban.
The top story on Gold FM.
Lawmakers accused central bank officials of steering the national economy blindfolded by using consumption data from 2019, a world before the COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent economic collapse. In a dramatic session of the Public Finance Committee, hearings suggested that the official low interest rates touted by the government may be a statistical illusion, masking a reality of high interest rates that are currently strangulating local industries. The hearing took a sharp turn when the committee chair, Dr. Harsha De Silva, discovered that the central bank's basket for calculating inflation is 7 years out of date. The chair's disbelief turned into a stern lecture on the sad state of affairs regarding the bank's reliance on the Department of Census and Statistics without doing its own legwork.
HIS, when was the last HIS?
2019.
Isn't it worthwhile for you to do something on your own? But it is a very sad state of affairs here. To this committee, you are telling me that you are using data from 7 years ago. I am not willing to accept it, Doctor.
The committee moves from data to consequences. MP Ravi Karunanayake argued that the central bank's wrong data led to predatory interest rates that are killing the SME sector, along with many other consequences.
The SMEs, the businesses, all are relying on this because we are looking at interest rates, creating an anti-inflationary approach. But we are looking, as I said, to look at this as long-term resource allocations for investments will be coming in, where the interest rate is a key factor.
Long-term resource allocation is not a function of the central bank. I must tell you, that's not
but
objective.
Interest rates have been determined by you all now.
We
so
determine.
If you all basically have a high interest rate, and if you in that case, who's going to grow this country?
No, this is the right interest rate based on the monetary stance.
Yeah, that is your
and economy is growing right, credit is growing right, demand is taking place at the right balance. So I don't see any problem with the current interest rate structure.
Okay,
that is the appropriate interest rate structure based on from the demand side. That's exactly what we see. That we can see clearly the indicators of demand side is pretty much in line and consistent with our monetary policy stance and the interest structure.
Yeah, but then the interest rate, what we see obviously is expectation of inflation and the real interest rate. No, if you really look at our competitor countries, Governor, in real interest rates are less than half of ours. Except for India, like I said, everybody else is below 2%.
Comparisons were also drawn between Sri Lanka's target inflation and that of regional neighbours.
India is like 2.5%. We are 5.5%. Even if you look at expectation of inflation of 3% for the next or 3.5% for the next foreseeable future 3-4 quarters, right? So if you're looking at being competitive in the region, I mean, is 6% real interest rate high or not? I think it's a valid question from our point of view.
Finally, in the most damning exchange, the committee asked a simple question. Did the central bank ever tell the government or the parliament that their advice was based on antiquated data?
So the revelation by you, has it not been told that we are in an antiquated 219 information that we are living on? That's what I'm asking, has been communicated. Yes.
Honourable Member, as you said, this is a fundamental thing, and I think the understanding all around the world is every 5 years at least this has to be done. The consumption basket has to be updated. So that's general knowledge, Honourable Member, and I think there is no need for...
I totally agree, but I'm asking whether it has been communicated. That is what will finally come back and say, nobody told us. That's the way things are going on. That's why I like to know, when you are revealed like this, whether it has been communicated. Obviously it hasn't, but it has got revealed now.
This is the local news on Gold FM.
The annual feast of St. Anthony's Shrine on the uninhabited island of Kachativ commenced today, drawing the thousands of Catholic devotees from both Sri Lanka and India. The island is considered the most distant point from the Sri Lankan mainland and is a traditional site of shared worship for fishermen of both nations. The Sri Lankan Navy, in collaboration with the Jaffna District Secretary, established extensive temporary infrastructure, including jetties, drinking water systems, medical bays and electricity to accommodate the influx of visitors. Naval vessels are currently overseeing the safe transport of priests and devotees to the islet. Alleged organised criminal Janith Madhushankar, also known as Podilasi, was brought back to the island after a period of evading law enforcement in India. Authorities secured his return to face multiple charges related to large-scale drug trafficking and organised crime syndicates operating within the country. Police believe he coordinated various criminal activities from abroad before his apprehension by Indian security forces and repatriation by the Criminal Investigation Department. Administrative and relief services across the island are set for major disruptions today as Gram Niladhari officers, technical officers and disaster relief staff withdraw from all recovery duties. The General Secretary of the Sri Lanka National Association of Gram Niladharis stated that the decision follows the government's failure to establish a proper assessment mechanism for compensation following Cyclone Ditwa. Meanwhile, the Government Medical Officers Association announced its withdrawal from the Arogya primary healthcare centres starting next Monday. The move is part of an ongoing trade union action. A 6-hour token strike launched by several trade unions of the Ceylon Electricity Board sparked a sharp internal divide within the utilities workforce. The VRS Employee Collective, a group of workers who opted for the voluntary retirement scheme, issued a strongly worded letter to the Minister of Energy, condemning the strike as illegal and politically motivated. The collective claimed the industrial action was a failure, alleging that less than 25% of the total workforce participated, despite facing intimidation from union leaders. In contrast, 26 trade unions, including the CEB Technicians Union, maintained that their 6-hour protest held yesterday was a success. Kausala Singha, the chairman of the CEB's Technicians Union, stated that the strike was an inevitable response to the authorities' failure to address 8 core demands, including concerns over salary increments, the confirmation of worker privileges in a collective agreement, and the lack of transparency in the board's proposed liquidation. Even though allowing exporters to invest in domestic dollar-denominated bonds is a welcome move, it is essential to ensure that risks associated with it are averted. That's according to the Lanka Ratings Agency. In October last year, the government, following a cabinet decision, issued domestic debt instruments denominated in foreign currency, targeting local commercial banks. However, the decision announced by the cabinet spokesperson submitting Parliament new rules, allowing exporters to invest in these domestic dollar-denominated bonds. Speaking to us, Bindula Vanigasekara, financial analyst of the ratings agency, first commented on the benefits of this measure as far as the economy is concerned.
The framework helps to strengthen foreign currency liquidity within the country by allowing these exporters to invest repatriated proceeds into these domestic dollar bonds. So the government can mobilize dollars already circulating domestically rather than depending solely on external borrowing. In another way, this supports gross official reserves and also reduces short-term refinancing pressures. It also helps to deepen the domestic capital market by creating structured dollar-denominated investment avenue, which had been limited following the sovereign default. For commercial banks, the bond provides a sovereign-backed channel to deploy excess foreign currency balances at yields in the range of 8.5 to 9, improving asset returns while also keeping their liquidity within the domestic system. So by reducing the need for immediate forced conversion of export proceeds into local currency, the framework may help to moderate short-term volatility in the foreign exchange market.
He is also of the view that there are risks associated with it.
The issuance of domestic dollar bonds increases the government's domestic foreign currency liabilities. Although this reduces the exposure to external markets, it concentrates dollar risk within the local financial system. If the local currency depreciates, the fiscal burden of servicing and redeeming these bonds rises in local currency terms. So there is also potential crowding out effect. Directly foreign currency into government bonds may reduce the availability of USD financing for private sector imports, trade finance and also productive investments. Since these instruments are held domestically, any future sovereign stress would directly affect banks and exporters, increasing the systematic concentration of sovereign risk.
As far as risk aversion is concerned, this is what he had to say.
These issuance must be kept within clearly defined limits. Domestic dollar bonds should function as liquidity management instrument and not a substitute for structural borrowing. So setting a transparent ceiling aligned with these debt targets ensures that domestic foreign currency liabilities do not accumulate to levels that increase fiscal vulnerability, especially in the event of an exchange rate depreciation. Now, this exchange rate risk must be prudently managed because maintaining adequate reserves and also helping these exporters to generate and increase their global competitiveness to turn this current account deficit into a surplus will greatly help to strengthen the exchange rate rather than depreciate it, and also to manage this inflation risk mainly coming from this exchange rate depreciation. So this government must particularly give more emphasis on managing the exchange rate risk so that the rupee value of the issued dollar bonds do not increase to a level where the government can't service them without any problem. And also the government should give more emphasis on not increasing its exposure more towards the banking system and especially towards exporters, because these are key entities that will help managing and increasing economic growth.
Now for some news in brief.
Mainly fair weather will prevail over most parts of the island today, while showers or thundershowers are expected in a few places within the southern province, as well as the Ratnapura and Monaragala districts after 2 p.m.
The business news on Gold FM.
The all-share price index of the Colombo Stock Exchange closed at 23,781.23 after gaining 78.13 points yesterday. The S&P SL20 index ended at 6,710.17 points, following a 24.9 point gain. Turnover totaled 4.9 billion rupees.
International news on Gold FM.
Pakistani Defence Minister Khawaja Mohammad Asif officially called an open war on the Afghan Taliban government. This comes hours after Pakistan said 2 of its soldiers were killed after an Afghan Taliban operation. Though the two countries agreed on a fragile ceasefire in October of last year, tensions have been steadily flaring up. Pakistan launched military strikes on the Afghan cities of Kabul and Kandahar following a significant escalation in cross-border violence.
Entertainment news on Gold FM.
Paramount Skydance is set to acquire Warner Bros. Discovery following the withdrawal of Netflix from the bidding process. The move comes after Warner Bros. Discovery declared that the latest offer from Paramount Skydance is a superior proposal to its previous agreement with Netflix.
Sports news on Gold FM.
India secured a dominant 72-run victory over Zimbabwe in their ICC Men's T20 World Cup Super 8 encounter. The Indian side posted a formidable total of 256 for the loss of 4 wickets in their allotted 20 overs. This is the second highest total in T20 World Cup history, behind Sri Lanka's 260 for 6 against Kenya in the inaugural event in 2007. Zimbabwe finished their innings on 182 for 6, as Brian Bennett remained unbeaten on 97 in a valiant solo effort. The result strengthens India's position in Group 1 as the tournament moves towards the knockout stages. That's it for now. This is Zulia De Silva for Gold FM. Thank you and have a lovely day ahead.